That would be like professional.
I mean, I'll be pretty as fuck.
Hello everybody, welcome to the manliest podcast in the known universe where we discuss men, their perfect bodies and beautiful smiles. No homo. As always, I am your host Kmist and I am joined by my lovely co-host, my dear Jared.
Hello.
And we are straight as a pretzel. The gay agenda for this week is gender, biological sex, gender identity, expression, societal expectations, and neurological differences. For example, does male or female brain actually exist? You can find that and more with timestamps to individual topics and links where applicable in the episode descriptions. So, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm here. I'm back.
Yay, we're back.
Back again. Guess who's back? Tell a friend. I'll stop now.
Oh, this thing. I think I remember it now.
Okay.
I don't really listen to music. We've talked about it beforehand.
Yeah. I think that was the Backstreet Boys, or was it NSYNC? It's like, guess who's back?
I would never know. Yeah,
Back
I know
again.
that the song.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yep. How are you?
I'm better than usual.
That's good, I think.
Yeah, but actually it may mean just my bar was pretty low. But yeah, I'm good. That's just in absolute values, I'm good. In relative values, I'm better than ever.
So that is good.
Yeah.
Good job. And also, good job. Because, you got a jab.
Yeah, I got a job and the job is pretty good.
And it pays you real money.
Yeah, that's nice. And I still have my Fridays off. And I'm only working 30 hours a week.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll be back there at that level soon.
My plan is to never work more than 4 days a week in my life. And there is pretty good chance that I can do it.
Good luck. Good luck with that. I'd like to be able to do that for the rest of my life.
Like 3-day weekends are so fucking good.
Having a 3-day weekend every week is the best.
Of course. It's like, how can people live without it?
Yeah, people who want to work like 60 hours a week, unless you have to, like, to put food on the table and all that stuff. Like, who wants to work that much voluntarily? Crazy people, that's who. I'll clinically diagnose them as such. You want to work too much. Slow down.
Yep. And yeah, the job is pretty good. Tomorrow, at the time of us recording this, which is probably like 3 months ago by the time I can actually be bothered to edit it, I'm starting a new project, which is propagation of polarization of emotions across synsets, which is very fancy speak for we have some words that are labeled as good or bad, and we are trying to figure out whether similar words are good or bad.
Yes.
Which is like an LI5 version. But it's pretty fun task when you get down to it on the technical level.
Are you trying to teach a computer to do that, or is this like a sorting algorithm, or...
Right now this is propagation algorithm, which means we have some data already manually labeled by our linguists, who just have too much time to spare apparently. And we are trying to propagate this information to the unlabeled parts. And we are trying to figure out the best way to do it, because there are some pitfalls you can very easily fall in. For example, you can have a word child, which is considered neutral, and you have a synonym brat, which is negative. So you can have synonyms, which should mean the same, but that have completely different polarization. So basically we are trying to figure out which types of connections are best to traverse.
Okay. Sounds fascinating.
It actually is. I find it pretty cool to be able to work with linguistics and try to get rid of all language in the world.
Try to get rid of all language in the world?
All languages other than English.
Okay.
Because at some time, our data was the main source for Google translating from Polish and English.
Fancy.
Yeah, we're trying to teach computers how to gather meaning from different words. And when I have a nice task to work with, it is really satisfying. And other times I spend 3 days looking for a line of code, then try to murder the person who wrote the bad line of code, and then realize actually it was me.
Well, I mean, you could murder yourself, and then you wouldn't make any more bad code.
Actually, it wasn't my fault. Because if our system was written properly, it would immediately catch it, that I have made a mistake. And instead it tried to hide it.
Fair enough.
So I think, can we move on to our intro questions?
Yes, let us do that.
Okay, our first question is, if you could, without any consequences, physically become a member of opposite sex for 24 hours, would you do it?
Yes. And.
Correct. I mean, how could you say no to that?
I mean, one, why not? Because
exactly.
It's 24 hours with no consequences. And two, I've always wanted to know what's it like. So, absolutely. Without question.
I mean, worst case, you have wasted 24 hours. Because apparently there's not much to learn. But still, the fact that there is not much to learn is a pretty interesting fact to learn.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the only people that would turn down such a proposal are way too insecure with themselves to even be worth discussing anything related.
I'd be so excited to know what it's like to have multiple consecutive orgasms. I would be so happy to experience that, to experiment with that. It's great. Well, that was easy. Next question.
Yeah, I think there's not much to say. Just, I don't know what I would do, other like the obvious stuff, but I would probably get bored of it quite quickly. But I think just I would like to see whether you perceive the world differently.
That would be interesting too. I would go out and just like walk around and be very aware of my experience just to see if it's different. Like to see how people would treat me different.
Yeah, something like this.
As a female, as opposed to a male. Because I know that there are gender differences and sexism, systematic sexism in our society. So I'd just like to experience what's different about it. So, hooray for academic answers beyond just I want to play with my boobs and other bits.
Yay, bits.
Okay. So the second question?
Do you want to read it?
Sure. If one day you woke up as a member of the opposite sex, all non-physical aspects unchanged, what would change in your life outside of current relationships? So, let me just to clarify. If I woke up tomorrow as a female, but in my body,
I mean, yeah, that's the question. Because, you would probably have to lose the beard, I'm sorry.
Wait, but if I just, wake up feeling like a female...
No, I mean, all non-physical aspects unchanged. So, you change physically, I mean, you don't change with your personality or anything.
Okay, so I read that backwards. I read that as the other way. Like, my physical body stays the same, but my mind goes the other. Okay. Yep, that was my fault. My fault.
No problem. I'm glad you cleared it up.
Yeah. What would change in my life outside my current relationships? I don't know. That's hard to say. I mean, as long as my perspective, my current sort of belief set stayed the same, not much. I mean, I would have to learn how to deal with being a female, both in the physical sense, having a female body long term would mean having to learn how to deal with periods and things like that. And then also what I mentioned before, the societal, how is society going to treat me as a female versus a male? But I don't think much would change as long as, my belief system didn't also change for some reason. Like, if quintessentially I was the same person, just now in a female body, then...
Yeah, this is basically my question. How would having a different body change the way you live your life?
Probably not much. I'd still play video games a lot. I'd still try and, I'd still be into banging everything. It might make it easier to get laid. I mean, in our society, in modern society, women hold all of the power in the dating world. They're in much higher demand than supply, so to speak. So it would be easier if I wanted to go find somebody. But I'm married, so as long as for some reason Katie didn't want to divorce me, which I don't think she would. I mean, she likes girls too, some. Not as much as I like boys, but I think it would be okay. We'd have that history. So, yeah. Not much would change, just the way that society views me, and I'd have to figure out how to navigate the female anatomy. I think I could handle that.
I think it's pretty much the same for me. I would have to learn to take care of my new body, but pretty much nothing apart from that. I would have to probably throw out some of my clothing because it simply wouldn't fit, but I wouldn't wear high heels because they're terrible. I don't know. I probably wouldn't. I also wouldn't grow my nails longer because I just hate long nails. Especially as a programmer, whenever I can hear somebody typing and hitting the nails on the keyboard, very close to scratching your fingernails on the chalkboard for me. I probably would start painting my nails, but I'm pretty much planning to do it already right now. I've tried it once and I kinda liked it, except that the nail polish I used was really shitty.
Yeah. I've painted my nails before. I like to make them, I like to put clear coat on them, which makes them shiny. I don't like to paint my nails, but it's mostly because I'm just messy, so I make a mess every time I do it. But if someone else is ever like, hey, do you want me to paint your nails? I'm like, sure, paint them. I don't care. Let's do it. I mean, I'll be pretty as fuck.
Oh, let me just try to quickly pull up a picture of me.
Nice.
I mean, I like the way it looks from far away because not only I was terrible, but just the quality of it. I bought the cheapest one possible just to see whether I liked it, and turns out I kinda do.
Nice.
Yeah, so other than that, what else would most people would think would change? Like, I don't know, shaving your legs? Well, I already do it. I've ordered an epilator today because I was tired of shaving.
Yeah, I probably still wouldn't shave my legs.
All the power to you.
Maybe I would.
And I probably would still be bi, so that doesn't change at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the assumption that wouldn't change.
Yeah, I mean, there might be something that we take for granted that, or something, just like something we aren't thinking about, but I think that just learning how to take care of your new body goes along with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. And also that's way society sees you. But for me, right now it sees me as what's the English word? Effeminate?
Yeah, effeminate.
Yeah, so right now I'm an effeminate man, and then I would be a boyish girl. Still keeping my probably hair short because it's way easier. Wearing trousers because fuck skirts.
I really like skirts. I'd probably wear a lot more skirts.
I prefer to keep my legs, free. It probably depends on a skirt. Because some way there is less material around, but it's also kind of binding. So I don't know. I'll have to check it out someday.
Yeah, well, there's different kinds of skirts. Like, I don't like pencil skirts or anything like that. Just like I don't know, there's probably a name for them that I don't realize, but they're just really sort of loose, flowy skirts. I like those. They let me be free. I'd probably be considered like a butch girl, sort of the stereotype of what lesbians were in like the 90s. Just really dirty, manly looking women. Because, I mean, I just don't give a shit about a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, me too.
and is, barring no personality changes, I just like to be comfortable.
Exactly.
So I would wear whatever clothes were comfortable for me.
Yeah, for me I don't really see anything that I do just because I'm a guy. The way I dress, the way I behave, at least I wouldn't want it to be that way. I don't really consider my gender to be that important. I was kind of thinking about it because I have heard that many trans people start out thinking about that way, but then I realized I just don't care either way. I'm not trans, I'm just meh. Like, whatever.
Right. Whatever. I do what I want.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So you want to move on to our big topic with more bullet points than any other one we've had before?
Well, yeah, but however you want to approach it.
Well, so the topic is gender.
Yes. Maybe let's try starting with just breaking down different aspects of it. Because for me, those 4 points are basically the different ways you can perceive gender. The body you have, the mind you have, the way you express it, and the way society sees you. You probably know a lot more about it as a psychologist.
Well, from a clinical perspective, yeah, I suppose. So yeah, gender. So gender is a societal construct, whereas sex is your chromosomes, XX, XY. There's a couple of rarer combinations. Actually, there's 8 different sexes. XX and XY, which is traditional male and female, are the 2 most common by far. Then you can have XXY and XYY, which are both much rarer. I think in someone who's got 2X and a Y chromosome is 1 in every 5,000 people, and someone with 1X and 2 Y chromosomes is way less than that. I think it's like 1 in every 50,000. And those people can present physically. Physically, they tend to present, the XXY tend to physically present as female, whereas the XYY tends to physically present as male, but they don't fit into either classification. Then there's 4 other very, very rare ones that have popped up that we know of a handful of times. They tend to, what's the right word that I'm looking for? Hermaphrodites. Hermaphrodites tend to come from the other 4, and sometimes the XXY and the XYYs can present as hermaphrodites as well.
Yeah, this is kind of a complex topic. I know a little more about it from like biological perspective, because I used to study medicine in high school. Basically, if you look at all the possible combinations of X and Y chromosomes, all of them except for XX and XY are rare. Many of them are unstable, meaning just they don't occur in nature because a person with that set of chromosomes cannot really develop. For example, while I believe it is possible to just have one X chromosome, it is not possible to have just one Y because the X chromosome encodes many vital information just about the body, not related to sex at all. And basically all the other combinations that are stable, they don't really present that much different. They tend to be somewhere closer to androgynous, basically intersex, but you probably couldn't really tell on most people.
No.
Aside from just chromosomes, if you think about just the private parts, then you can have many, how can you say it? Yeah, so many different congenital abnormalities that are not related to DNA themselves, just the way the body develops. And you can also treat them separately.
Well, I mean, the biology is a lot more clear cut. I mean, by and large, you're either biologically male or biologically female. there are very few exceptions and in-betweens and that sort of thing. And like you said, most of the exceptions are not viable. So, and even the exceptions that are viable tend to present as column A or column B. So from a genetic standpoint, it's pretty much male or female. Now, when you get into gender identity, then there's a lot more of a spectrum going on. The classic gender roles of male and female kind of mix in with your societal expectations category, how society views us. And that does present somewhat because of biological differences in males and females. Genetically, males tend to be a lot stronger, like physically stronger. Females are a lot more relationship and societal minded, so they play better together. They kind of are able to be sort of the glue in society, whereas the men were always the pathfinders who went and did the hunting and the gathering. And back in prehistoric and for most of human history, being physically stronger meant that they were the more powerful in terms of in society, because what is a female going to do to a male? And that is kind of what has shaped a lot of our gender roles. In more modern times, gender identity is a very big spectrum, because by and large, at least in the first world, those same sort of male female things no longer apply anymore. So if a man, an effeminate man, one day wants to be more female, then he can refer to himself as a she. And today I'm feeling much more like a female, or vice versa. Or you can feel like that all the time. While gender fluidity is a thing, most people tend to misattribute it and like make fun of it, like, oh, what if I'm having sex and suddenly I decide that I want to be a woman and you're a woman? Does that make us gay or whatever? And like there's tons of bullshit about that, but really it tends to deal with how people are feeling on any given day if they're gender fluid. I've worked with several clients who are, and most of the time they are one or the other. And they'll say, some days I'm having a day where I feel more ladylike, and so I throw on my high heels and I go that way. Or some days I'm feeling a little bit more manly, so I put on my work boots. Gender identity is very powerful too. The way people look and view themselves does a lot to develop their confidence and the way that they proceed forward in our modern world. It's a lot more nuanced than biology. By and large, most people still tend to think of themselves as either male or female when it comes to gender, but there's a lot more room for interpretation. And a lot of it has to do with gender roles and how you feel. And to some extent, some of it can be controlled or changed with hormones. That's fascinating, working with transgender people, how that whenever they go on hormone treatments to become the opposite sex, there are huge differences that happen in their personality. Occasionally, hormone therapy is tried to, and I'm making air quotes for anyone listening, to cure someone of being like an effeminate man. For example, they'll give them testosterone and they will start to become more in what society deems the male gender to be. They'll be more aggressive and they'll grow more body hair and stuff like that. So some of it can be controlled hormonally, which I find fascinating, kind of that intersection between what our society tells us and what we can do with the limited control over biology that we have. But most people who truly believe that, or truly feel that, they're a woman trapped in a man's body or vice versa, even doing that, even giving them hormones or trying their best to change our biology doesn't actually fix, again, air quotes, fix the problem. So gender's fascinating. We could be here for hours. I could go get one of my old textbooks out, get one of my old course syllabuses, whatever, out, and we could talk about it for a long time, because it's very nuanced and very deeply misunderstood, even by those of us in my field and people in the psychology realm that do research on this sort of stuff. There's still a lot that we don't know, and we're still learning how biology plays into people being gay or bisexual or whatever, because in nature there's a precedent for same-sex sexual attraction and activity. I think it's something like 2% of mammals have same-sex relations at some point in their life, which scientists have no idea why, because there's no biological imperative or biological necessity for two members of the same sex to mate, particularly in animals. So there's a lot about it that we just don't understand.
Yeah, I would really gladly go back to this topic someday with textbooks.
Yeah.
I think we could just talk about it, make it like a special, just drop everything else and just focus on this single bullet point.
Yeah. I'll do that. I'll get in touch with one of my old professors who taught my gender and sexuality class in graduate school or university, and get her material, and I'll find my old syllabus because I kept all of that stuff, like just in case I ever needed any of it for anything, and I'll have to go dig it out of my archives, but I've got it, so we can do that sometime.
Can you get her on the show?
I don't know. I could try.
That would be like professional.
Dr. Kirsty Williams is her name. She's fantastic. Love that lady.
I think we should look into it.
She taught a class about feminism and postmodern therapy. She taught the gender and sexuality course. She taught the course that dealt with cultural sensitivity. Like, she would be great to talk about a lot of things if I could convince her to come on the show.
Trying not to get too excited about it.
Yeah, she's also a sex therapist. Like, that's her specialty, sex therapy. So, yeah, fun times.
Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, so because we should probably get moving on because you said you don't have much time.
Yeah, we've got about 10 minutes before Katie's going to come in here and start getting set up for her meeting or whatever it is she's doing it for.
Let's end on the cliffhanger then. And say we will go back to it, because there is much more to discuss. And let's quickly get over our FFK then.
Alright.
So our list for today is based on Stargate. In our case, the TV series, but pretty much anything goes. And to make it quicker, I will start. So my list is Teal'c, I think he was pronounced. There was a long time since I watched the series. Ronan Dex, who was in Atlantis, and Nicholas Rush, who was... I would consider him the main character of Stargate universe. And... okay, quickly. Fuck Ronan Dex, because he's played by Jason Momoa, who most people probably know from Khal Drogo, and recently the Aquaman, Justice League Thingamajig movie.
Oh, I didn't know that was him.
Yeah, it was him.
Okay, cool.
Then marry Nicholas Rush, because he was kinda scheming. He would probably fit into Game of Thrones. And as we've already discussed, I kinda have a thing for that people, mainly because I don't want them to kill me. I said I would be Littlefinger's Sansa, then I can be Nicholas Rush. Was he into anybody? I don't know.
I don't remember. It's been a few years since I've seen the show.
Yeah, me too. I mean, he kinda liked Eli. Probably nothing between them. Anyway, I find this man fascinating, the way he dealt with the whole situation. And I'm really sad that I will never see him again because the series was cancelled. And then killing Teal'c. I mean, I don't have anything against him, he just wasn't that interesting of a character. Like, his defining feature was that he was very boring.
Indeed.
Indeed, I was waiting for you to say that.
I had to give it just that little pause.
Yeah. So, your pick?
Yes, my pick from your list. Absolutely, I'm going to marry Teal'c. He was one of my sweethearts on the show. I picked up saying "indeed" all the time from him. I can directly trace it back to there. So, since you stole him from my list, or for your list, then I'm going to have to marry him. Ronan Dex, I said earlier I was the least familiar with Stargate Atlantis. So, I recognized him once I looked him up, but I just never quite got into the show that much, so I'm going to punish him for that and kill him. Because it's totally his fault, absolutely, without question. Actually, that's not true, but that's what I'm going to say. And then Nicholas Rush, I really, really like his character. in universe, and also I really like the actor that plays him. But unfortunately, because Teal'c's in your list, I'm just gonna have to fuck him and leave Teal'c as my. What's Can men be waifus?
Husbandu? I've seen that. I've seen that word once.
Yeah, that's what Teal'c is for me. And for my list, I went with all characters from SG-1 because SG-1 was my favorite series, and I'm boring. So Colonel Jack O'Neill, who later becomes General O'Neill.
Spoilers.
General Hammond, who was the first Hammond or the first general / commander of the Stargate program, and Samantha Carter. She starts off the show as a major, and I think she finishes as brigadier general. It might have just been colonel, but regardless.
I don't really know because I don't know the American rank system, so...
Fair enough. So this one's a tough one because I really love all three of these characters for very different reasons. Like General Hammond was always like a really kind of cute father figure, and he looks like perfect dad material with like his pot belly and everything. Samantha Carter was like a no nonsense. Like she was a strong female character back in the 90s when people thought strong female characters were dumb. So she really meant something. And I really liked that she was a no-nonsense, really intelligent character, that she was pretty, but they never tried to sex her up. Like, she was always just in standard military gear and everything. And then Jack O'Neill, he's MacGyver. What's not to love about the guy who played MacGyver? And he's funny and cute. So tough. Okay, on a deadline. Have to figure this out quickly. I'm going to marry General Hammond because he's just adorbs. I love him. He's great. He's got experience. He's super smart. Nice guy. I'm gonna have to fuck Samantha Carter because she's like a badass, and so she's gotta be good. Gotta be really kinky. Like, she's keeping all that inside. She's got to be. And sadly, that means that my sweetheart, one of my other sweethearts from SG-1, I'm gonna have to kill him. I'm sorry, Jack. You're the oldest. You've lived a good life. And I loved laughing at your jokes. But you gotta go. So yeah. Your turn.
Let me just pull up a quote that I found. Sam Carter. I'm an Air Force officer just like you are, Colonel. And just because my reproductive organs are on the inside instead of the outside doesn't mean I can't handle whatever you can handle. Jack O'Neill? Oh, this has nothing to do with you being a woman. I like women. I just don't like scientists. And I think those two quotes say everything that you need to know about my approach to those characters. Marry Samantha, fuck Jack, and sorry, Hammond, you have to go. Just, you weren't in this quote.
Fair enough.
This is like I think this was the very first episode, and this is my favorite quote from all the series. Because, as you can say, Sam was a badass. And where I'm from, you don't fuck badasses, you marry them.
Fair enough. I can accept that logic. Alright. Well, with that out of the way, I guess it's time to wrap up this week.
Yeah, this went a little quicker than we expected, but I'm pretty much okay with it. I'm really happy that we finally got something done after a long break.
Me too. And I'm glad we worked out a more flexible schedule, because then I won't feel so bad about missing things. Alright? You can shoot us an email at straightpretzel@gmail.com or send a tweet to @straightpretzel. All this plus more can be found at straightpretzel.wordpress.com.
Our intro music is Disco Medusae by Kevin MacLeod, provided free of charge on Creative Commons license. Find out more at incompetech.com. We are powered by Internet Archive free hosting.
Remember, if your would go gay for list is longer than 5 people, you ain't straight, but you're in good company.
Stay fabulous.